And I'm going to be talking about browsing compatibility. So this is getting a lot of buzz lately, right? Because there's been some stuff coming out about how long is Internet Explorer going to be available and supported. And I'm going to be talking about all of that. But before we say goodbye, let's just pause for a moment to see just how long Internet Explorer has been with us. So all the way back to 1999. So many, many years, 20 years. And it's important to be able to continue to support that. And there are methods to do that. And this is one place where Edge just really shines because of its compatibility features. So when you get asked, how do we move from Internet Explorer to Edge? How do we convince that it'll be okay? Or how do we pry Internet Explorer out of the business and end users' machines? That's the answer to that is your Internet Explorer mode. So it really does make it easy to do all of this. Here is what it does support. IE mode supports all the document modes, ActiveX controls, browser helper objects, IE chooser, some amount of the old Edge extensions, but what it doesn't support, toolbars, navigation menus, and developer tools. So keep in mind that there are some limitations, but by far, just about everything that you need to do to be able to have this all-in-one experience is there. We've talked a little bit about this. I'm going to show you in my demo a few of this. I think we've already touched on quite a few of these, so I'm not going to spend any more time on that. So how do you configure this IE mode? So you have to have a site list. Now, the benefit of this is that it will use your existing site list. If you've been doing this, after all, Internet Explorer has been around a long time, so you may already have a site list. And I'll show you here in my demo where you can see that happening and how to create a site list. You put that in an accessible location. File share is what people have traditionally done. We're also recommending to put it on HTTPS, a lot more secure and more available. And then you need to do some configuration of policies. So let me jump right into the demo because that's where the good stuff is. First, let me show you what it looks like when you have IE mode configured. So this is my client machine here. Bigger. Oh, that's not helpful. Let me go back to this one here. So if you open up Edge, just to show you what I'm doing. So here's I love this. This is my edge.://about, and it will give you the list of all the little cool things in here that you may want to look at. But I'm going to jump right over into this one on compatibility, because this is going to be super useful for you. This shows you what this particular client machine is getting. So I have put my site list, which is very small, only one thing on here, in my lab, and it also shows you what version it is. So as you update that XML, it will actually version up, and you'll see that in here. So what does that look like? So if I go to my portal.fabricon.com, it loads in Edge. You click right here, you get all this cool information about what's going on in it, but I need to schedule an appointment. So I click on this, and look what's loading. This is Silverlight. Well, Silverlight is not supported in Edge. But wait, look, I'm not running Internet Explorer. Well, I am. But if you click here, you can see that this is actually open in Internet Explorer mode. And it shows you what the compatibility mode that it's been set for and what zones and such like that. And this is one of the common questions that we do get. If I set this up, can I let me see, I haven't done this. Can I get rid of Internet Explorer? And the answer is no. If you're going to be using Internet Explorer, that process still needs to be able to run in that background to support this. So yet it looks like it's all one browser. It really isn't. And as far as support for Internet Explorer, it is tied to the workstation. So you may have seen some stuff. I've got a slide here about the upcoming deadlines that have come and are upcoming about what is being supported within Internet Explorer as the modern browsers are needed for more of the advanced portals and such that we all use every day. So this is a way to be able to still support those legacy sites until they get updated, and be able to do that in a really friendly end user seamless mode. They don't know that Internet Explorer is actually opening this unless they're paying super close attention to this little icon here. A couple other things that I'd like to show here is that we do have a diagnostics page too. If you're not seeing things work particularly well, this is super handy. You can export this. This doesn't show a whole lot, but you can get some information about this. And then you can come down here into the group policy settings and see what's going. And this is something I like to point out. As I mentioned, if you have an existing site list you had applied to Internet Explorer, maybe you needed Internet Explorer 11 to open up document mode, like document mode 8 for a particular site, you would have been using an enterprise site list for that. And you would set that in your Internet Explorer policies. So we've been talking a lot about group policy as far as the group policy for Edge and Chrome, but there also are lots and lots of policies for Internet Explorer, and Edge will consume those. So if you have it set up already, Edge is using that. Now, the benefit is when you move it to the new Edge policies, you can switch your site list here and have it pick up in this spot instead. So just a good thing to point out is some people can kind of use that because the Internet Explorer, of course, will not pick up an Edge policy. So if you do need, for some weird reason, to have two different site lists kind of things, you can kind of sort of manage that, just to keep that in mind. So, so what about this enterprise site list? Let me flip back to. So it's not new. It's been around for years, and it's that compatibility mode. A couple things that, and some resources here that you can look for as you're trying to understand all of these different document modes and things like that that you may need. But it configures that compatibility mode for the specific website. And as you saw in my example, it doesn't have to be the entire website. If it's a particular page of a website that needs it, then you can just do it for that particular URL. If you are using the 1.0 schema, the older version, we do recommend that you upgrade to the 2.0. And just for compatibility, you can import that directly in and use it that way. And here I already showed you this in the demos, but I put this in here for reference in case you're looking for those particular pieces. So let's take a quick look at, and I'm not going to do a super deep dive. It's pretty straightforward. And you download this from Microsoft. I have the links in there. And this is for the V2 schema. So to add a site, you would just put in that URL. This is where you pick what you want it to open in. So you can have it open in IE11, or you can do Legacy Edge. Don't do that. But you can also, if you don't want it to open up in the tab, you want it to pop up in a separate window, that's where you would click this. And here's all your different compatibility modes. And you can put some notes in here. Obviously, that's not going to show up, but that can help you in understanding what you've been doing. So once you have put in the URLs, you do have a bunch of options on how to do this. You can bulk add from a file, but once you've got in what you have, you then save it to an XML. And it's this XML that you want to put then on your file share or upload that into your HTTPS, and that's what the client machines will then consume in order to have that redirection. So let me pause here. Any questions on this before I move to the next slides? I'm not seeing the chat, so. All right. So then the next question is, how do I know what sites are requiring Internet Explorer? So there's good news and bad news. We do have a tool again, that you can use to help identify that, and that's called the Enterprise Site Discovery. This is also something that has been around for a long time. We had this with IE11, and it continues to work. It is not the easiest to configure. I'm not going to tell you how wonderful it is, but it does the job. So if you have Internet Explorer as your main browser in your organization and you have no idea about starting on a site list, you may choose to use this. Couple things, it's not going to tell you the compatibility. So it'll tell you what Internet Explorer is opening up as far as the document mode. So like IE11 will open up typically in IE11 sites, but if the site is older, it will show you that, this site needs IE8. So it's not going to show you the compatibility with Edge, because what you'll find is a lot of sites that are in IE11 document mode will work just fine in Edge, and they don't need to have that discovery. So the common question I get is, well, how do I know if my current site list, if those all load into Edge? And I don't know of an automated way to do this. I said, well, if you have a summer intern, just have them go try to open each one of those URLs in Edge, and that's really the testing, the method that I know of. If anyone has any great other thoughts there, please share. Also, this whole site discovery does use Configuration Manager and SQL to make it easier. You can do it with group policy. It's a little clunky. But the other thing is that what this is doing is it's recording all of the sites that Internet Explorer goes to, depending on the parameters that you set. And I'll show you that here quickly in a moment. So that's something to keep in mind. You don't want to run this for very long, especially if you're pulling this into your Configuration Manager database for reporting. It can get a lot. If you have a big organization, that's another consideration. So you don't need to run this on every single machine if you're just trying to get an idea of what's going on. So go to the next slide. So when you do this, this is what the Enterprise Site Discovery is going to be gathering. So you've got your URLs, whether it's got ActiveX, the document mode. So this is just kind of the whole list of what you're getting. Again, this is not on by default. You're going to have to configure this and set this all up and then analyze the data. So as I said, the setup it has a bunch of things to it, right? So you've got to download this package that we have. You're also going to need the report builder if you want to use the reporting within Configuration Manager, because you're going to have a custom report. Then in this package that you download, you're going to have this PowerShell script, which will need to be run on your client machines and is going to require a reboot. Then you're also going to need to set a GPO, turn it on the WMI output, and then also just another reminder, don't leave this on. You will be sad if you do. And then also you'll need to extend your ConfigMan hardware inventory so that you're picking up these new WMI pieces that you're putting in here. And then you also need to import they give you some sample reports with this package, and that gives you a chance to look at that. So when you get this, you're gonna see when you get a report in, and I apologize, I don't have a report with a lot of good data into it because I just have them in my lab. But here's some thoughts on how you may want to go through those and start to sort out what you may or may not need to set. And then another important thing is on site list behavior. We are recommending that you upgrade from V1 to V2 and then neutral sites. So one of the common issues that we see is that there's a authentication site. So when you have like a user's browser and they have to go into a sign-on page and then go back into a site that needs that IE mode, you need to configure that authentication site as a neutral site. And you may have noticed that in the site list manager, that how you can tag that so that that's available. So it's again, it's easy to kind of see, well, easy. when you have a site that may be not working in IE mode and you don't understand what's going on, kind of a telltale sign that you need to configure a neutral site is you'll see down in your bottom left corner that where the URL is, it kind of spins and goes in a loop, like it's trying over and over and over again because of the way that that's interacting. So just be aware of if some of these sites need authentication, and you need those sites to be in IE mode, that you are very likely going to need to configure a neutral site in your site list. All right, a couple tips and tricks. Again, I'm going to demo this so you'll be able to see it, but this is a little PowerShell snippet that you can see what is being collected on an individual machine. So you can just run this from a troubleshooting standpoint to see if the machine is recording what Internet Explorer is doing. And then also about the future of the site. This just came out. It's only in the dev channel so far, but we are building in the Enterprise Site List Manager into Edge. So it's going to be localized on the desktop. So again, this is kind of new. The docs on it just came out last week. So just watch this space. You know, we know that the Enterprise Site List Manager is older. Doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles. So there's work being done to make that a more modern experience. All right, so let me switch back and show you some stuff. Okay, so and as I mentioned, here's where you can flag those neutral sites. So if I needed to do that, you can do that there. So, all right. So let me, we talked about all of this stuff that you have to do. Well, that's a lot, right? You're busy, you got stuff going on. Surely there's a better way. And there is. Here is a little hidden gem for you. This is so fabulous. Hardly anybody knows that it's here because, quite frankly, I think most of us don't spend a whole lot of time in the admin.microsoft.com portal. But when you come into this, you'll see that there's a training and guides little spot right here. And there's some cool stuff here. You got some training for admins, training for end users. But here's some customized setup guidance. Click on this, and you're going to see a whole bunch of wizards. And the one that you're going to be interested in is this Microsoft Edge setup guide. And yeah, it kind of sounds like, all right, great. I really don't need any help. Donna already showed us how we can package that up in ConfigMan, and but wait, there's more. This thing does way more than just deploy Edge. So I'm kind of switching over here. This is where it's going to say I've already got some stuff preloaded just in the interest of time. So what this does, it's going to give you some stuff, but then it's going to start some configuration for you. And this is where it gets interesting. So if you need to be configuring policies and stuff for all of these different pieces, notice what's happening over here as I'm adding these. It's giving you additional stuff that you're going to be able to configure. So I encourage you to explore this depending on what you're interested in. Now, I'm going to kind of show you the config manager piece of things because I've got a couple comments to make on that along the way. But all of these are really neat and cool. So this is going to pick the tool. So of course, we've got Microsoft Intune up front there, and you certainly can go through that wizard. It's going to help you with the policies in order to set up for Edge. We're going to look at Configuration Manager specifically because I want to show you the easier way and I want to emphasize this, if you have to do enterprise site discovery. Please don't do enterprise site discovery unless you really truly have no clue what sites your organization is using that might need some document mode configurations. And then it also is asking if you want to turn on that IE mode, and that's what this question is here. So we're going to go click on next. And it's going to give you some information about the channels and such like that. Certainly read through that. It gives you some nice information. And I always like to point out support provided. If you are using beta and you have trouble, you can have a support case open on it. And we're not going to tell you to upgrade to stable. We're going to help you with that beta. So just keep in mind that that is a really nice feature of that. Okay, so This is where if you do have to do that enterprise site discovery, you're going to click on yes. It's going to tell you what you're going to need. You need the config manager, your SQL reporting services, and your reporting services role. And then here's where you start to fill in. And I've already pre-filled these in for my lab. It's going to ask you where to put the telemetry source files. So it's going to download those files for you and put this in this particular spot. So this is kind of a one-time piece that you'll need to do. The report server URL, because it's going to automatically create those reports for you. And how about this? It's actually going to distribute the content for you if you list your distribution points that you want this on. Then the zone allow list. One thing I encourage you to think about is you don't really want all the information for every single site that Internet Explorer has gone to. You're usually interested in the business ones, right? Your intranet, maybe your trusted sites, maybe you have a trusted sites list, restricted sites. These are probably the ones that you want to know. Or maybe you just want to know the ones from your particular domain. And you can put that here, and it's going to then focus just on those. Really can save you a lot on the whole data thing, because you don't want to kill yourself with every single site that user has gone to in order to be able to make the decisions that you need. Okay, so configuring the IE mode policies. This is where that XML site is. So I showed you the site manager how to create this XML, and here is the share that you'll, or where that is going to live. And then it's also going to do some registry targeting because it's not going to be using this particular flow here. Does not use group policy. It's going to flip those registry keys. So this is what they're recommending. All right, so you do all of that, and you're going to be able to download the script. And really, truly, it's quite remarkable. So you're going to get a script to run on your config man machine. And oh, actually, I already have it open. Sorry, I forgot about this. And you're going to get this. So here's my site discovery. This is what I ran on my machine, and it configures all of these cool things for you. And I'm not going to take the whole time to scroll through, but I do want to show you the output of. You'll get a nice output. You don't run this. It's just a simple right click and run as an admin, and it will do all of these things. If you don't run it in the console, you need to do a right click and run, just as they said, or you'll get some right host errors or console errors. So just a little tip there. It's going to show you all the things that it's doing. It's going to download the modules that it needs. So if you haven't configured NuGet on that particular machine, it's going to prompt you for that. Also the untrusted repository, because again, it's pulling these modules from the PS gallery. It's going to get your site code for you. It's going to validate a bunch of arguments. It's going to check your permissions on your shares and set those if they're not correct. And keep on going down. It's going to download those packages that you need. Going to create the telemetry, put the telemetry scripts in place. Configure your MOF file. Extend your inventory classes, and keep on going. And create your put in the sample reports, or the reports, one sample report and one actual report that you can then use, and create packages. It will create packages in which to deploy all these little goodies out to your workstations, and all of that within about 5 minutes or less. So super cool. Again, it makes something that's a little arduous a lot more manageable. But I found that there was a couple caveats. It is fairly new. And when I implemented this in my lab, the packages did not work as expected. They are, you see, it creates the two here. If I go into programs, it's running these off the share. I don't know if it's something with my clients that I didn't have set up right, but I didn't get this to work right. And the registry settings also didn't work right for me. So this part didn't work right. The reporting. That worked great. Oops, sorry, wrong spot. So if I come in here, this is what your report is going to look like. Come on, here we go. And again, I've got, this is my lab. Oh, look, it populated finally. So this is an example of, I went to as many older sites as I could. I did not find anything that really wasn't compatible, but this is going to pull some good information that you can begin to do this. In my particular lab, this was not, I didn't find anything. I was hoping, I went to some really old sites that are what I thought might be old sites, and I didn't get any goodness here in order anything that I needed to put on a the site list. So, but anyhow, that's the report that it puts in there for you, and configures all of that. So all of that worked well. It was just getting these packages out because this one, oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. So it's this one, this PowerShell script. This one does need to run. So you just may need to change the content or whatever, play with that a little bit, because that one does need to run on each of the clients that you need to collect the information on. What I ended up doing, which because I wanted to play with that as well, is I kind of backed up to my deployment options and I switched over to group policy. Oh, actually, before I do this, I do want to show you one more thing here. What comes after? Oh, shoot, I wiped it out. Dang it. All right. That's what I was trying not to do, but I ended up doing it anyhow. But the next ones will go into your baselines. Like if this was filled out, I'm not going to take the time to do that. But it's also going to talk about deployments. So it does a bunch of other things. But since I already clicked on the GPOs, let me show you that one. So if you're not a GPO person and you want some help with that, you can do this all through GPOs. Again, they kind of have the same sort of thing. This time, I'm not going to pick to configure enterprise site discovery. It's really a pain to do it. It's for if you don't have configuration manager in your environment. You can technically do all this with just group policy and stash all your XMLs in one space and then manually load it into SQL, and you don't want to do that. But what's interesting is it then starts to talk about some conditional access policies that are interesting that you may want to consider. It takes you right to your security baseline, so you can easily download these. And then it actually kind of gives you a wizard here on walking through and configuring some of the more common policies that you may want. So you might want to say, what your home page is, or say that that's my domain there, and a few other things. This is your configuring your IE mode and where your site list is, whether you're going to allow the Internet Explorer mode testing. So, so it's not every policy. It's probably some of your more common ones. Again, designed for the busy admin who doesn't have time to go through all of this and just kind of set this all up. And then if you want to deploy Edge with group policy, again, if you have ConfigMan, you don't want to be doing that. But if you didn't have ConfigMan, this would be an option. And then it's going to, then you're going to create a script here that's actually going to do the group policies for you. And what's the running? Oh, enter name. And again, it's going to download a script. This one's a little different. And you would run this on your domain controller, and it would put all of this in place for you, and from a group policy standpoint. So I kind of ended up doing a combination that gave me the ability to quickly do in the group policies, but yet still use ConfigMan to do the enterprise site discovery. So just what I particularly did. And then here's the next thing, right? Next steps. Educate users by sending training emails. So you can click on this and it will take you into another wizard. There's a whole bunch of these training things. So if you need to let your end users know and you don't have time to write an email, you can click next and it will give you a email right here. We already have it set up for you with all the things the end user knows to start using Edge. And then you can type in a particular person. Look, it's pulling all from Office 365 here. So we'll send it to Alex. And then after, you've checked out that preview and you're ready to send it to everybody, you send it out to the whole company. And then done. So now everybody knows, everybody got an email about Edge in the in your tenant, what I just did. So kind of interesting. It's not going to solve all of your problems, but if you're looking for something quick or to get you started on things, this is kind of hidden. Like I said, a lot of us don't go into this particular section, but there's this setup as well as others. So that is what I wanted to point out. So I went through all of that pretty quick, and I know we've got probably a bunch of questions. Anyone want to come off mute and ask anything?